Hey, thanks. Yeah, so we're Free2z, peer-to-peer giving. And when we were thinking about preparing this talk, I kind of came back to those 5 W's and H questions. I don't know if you all remember that from elementary school. So I'm going to do a deep dive on what, and Skylar is going to tackle the why, how, and where. So what? What is Free2z? Free2z is a tool that unlocks the power of Zcash to make peer-to-peer donations private, direct, affordable, and fun. So we'll get into all these points right now. So this is not something really new. So there's like a ton of fundraising platforms out there. I'm sure you're familiar with the ones on the right side here. So Patreon, GoFundMe, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Now, what all of these platforms have in common, though, is that they have, to some extent, some level of centralization. So you've got like donors giving money to a third-party platform, and they're basically taking away some fees to handle the credit card processing, et cetera, and then giving a percentage back to the donee. So the fee could actually be reasonable, or it could be kind of high. It really depends. But the point is that someone else is in the middle of this transaction, so it's not direct. It's not peer-to-peer. So what we're shooting for is something that's more like a tip jar, right? So you take your tip jar, you pass it around, and people can put money in there, and if somebody sticks their hand in there that you don't want, they're probably going to get smacked. You know, there's nobody else in there. So some advantages of Free2z. We are private, so there's absolutely no personal data being stored. It's direct, no intermediaries, peer-to-peer, like I was talking about. It's also quite affordable. So there's just a minor fee to register a Z page. We'll see about that in a second. But other than that, it's just the very minimal network traffic fees that you have with the Zcash network, which is incredible. And it's also a lot of fun. We can use it to create and share content. So this is a map that shows the current availability of GoFundMe. And the countries in green are actually the only places where you can use GoFundMe currently. And I think you'll see some commonalities between the countries here. Yeah, like you can probably come to your own conclusions, but it's a very sort of limited list of availability for right now. And it's basically excluding the entire global south, right? So I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure people outside of these green countries could use a fundraising platform, maybe for raising money for essential medical treatments or, school supplies, microfunding for business startups. I mean, the list goes on and on. So the major donor platforms are also not private or anonymous. So they require, as a minimum, your email, usually a credit card number, which includes the full name for the card, a country postal code. It kind of goes on and on. For Free2z, we require no personally identifiable information. So there's just a username and a password, and that's absolutely it. So Skylar and I both have a background in banking. So we kind of have like the importance of personally identifiable information just hammered into us like a million and one ways. But basically, PII is like private information that can be used for a transaction or to identify you as a customer. So it's very important to maintain the security of this information when you gather it. So the really cool thing about what we're doing here is that we're kind of taking the KYC, or know your customer, that is in finance, as a minimum requirement of how you custody customer data. We're taking that and kind of flipping it on its head, because our principle is DKYC, so don't know your customer. Like, we don't know who you are. It's completely private. You hold on to your data. We don't take it. And the really neat thing about that is that in the case of, if there were to be like some sort of a hack or some issue with a data breach, the threat surface is extremely limited, right? Because we're not even gathering this personal information. So there's really not much that can go wrong. So, and this is made possible just because of the magic of Zcash. So we're also direct. And by direct, I mean, it's peer-to-peer. It's just you, your Z2Z address. And really, the only way you could get more direct would be like a puppy high five, in my opinion. It's also quite affordable. So this is a list of the sort of standard fees associated with fundraising platforms. And as you'll see, most of them have some sort of a basic transaction fee. And then there's usually like a suggested donor fee, which is something optional. And then there's the credit card processing charges, which are usually around 3% more or less. So it does add up to something all in all. And because we're using Zcash for all the transaction processing, we get pretty close to free in terms of our fees required. So that's pretty amazing. Beyond being affordable, it's actually a lot of fun. So we have a rich content platform, and there's already a lot of great content on it. You can see here about the Zcash car. There's been a little fundraising associated with that. Some people promoting the Zcash Crypto World Tour. So the really cool thing about it is that you can really share almost any kind of content. I mean, in this room right now, just looking around, like there's film producers. I see a ton of software engineers. I know there's some writers. There are probably even some aspiring cooks out there, right? Chefs, next celebrity chef. So you can really have pages about all of your interests. So it's very easy to create a new user. Like if you're a chef and a coder, you can have one profile that's for all of your your programming stuff, where you can be sharing code samples, and have a completely separate profile for the cookbook you're writing, right? So we're just trying to make it as fun as possible. Now there's some stories about health. So we're already seeing a lot of people use Free2z to fundraise for health concerns. And they're just getting really real. Like they're doxing themselves. They're just putting all this information out there, and just trusting kind of in the power and integrity of the Zcash community, that people are going to reach out to them and help them overcome these health challenges. There's also a lot of fun going on. So there's the 5Z Bandit, which is I love telling this story, but there's someone or maybe a group of people, we don't really know, who is just making these big 5Z contributions to Free2z pages. And yeah, people are getting visited by the 5Z Bandit. And in some cases, it's even like life-changing. So there's a person who's very active in the Zcash community in Latin America, Roosevelt Gordonez, and he was asking for contributions to get a new computer, because his computer was completely unworkable. And he actually got not only one, but 2 visits from the 5Z Bandit, and ended up getting enough money to get this really awesome new computer. And so now his level of engagement and activism and support for the community has just skyrocketed since he's got this new machine. So it's just like really exciting to see what's going on. So yeah, so if anyone knows who the 5Z Bandit is, I'm curious. So please let me know. And maybe we'll see a 10Z Bandit sometime soon. Who knows? So now I wanted to get to the actual, show you about the site. So right here, this is our homepage, super minimalist design. As you see, we've got a blue button there that'll take you to the ranked list of Free2z pages. And then below that is a green button for creating a new page. And we also have this nice QR code for donating directly to Free2z. So if anybody wants to support the platform, I can leave this slide up for a while. If anybody wants to come up and take that QR code and start donating, that's fine. I can leave it up there. Yeah, OK, or not. But you can also go to free2z.com or free2z.cash and get that QR code. And let's talk about actually creating. So you actually don't even need to make a user on Free2z to experience the community and to start donating and contributing to campaigns. This is just if you want to become a contributor or create your own pages, then you will have to create a user. So it's very straightforward. Just choose your username. It's completely public. There's still a lot of good ones left. And then a password. And then just go through the CAPTCHA. So very easy. And this is what it looks like to actually create a page. So as you see, you can put whatever you want in the title. There's a nice vanity link there, which ends up becoming the top-level domain name for that page. So that's unique. That'll be helpful for SEO. So that does have to be unique. And then there's the PTP adder. That's basically where you put in your Z address where you want to receive the shielded payments. And then below that, we have this nice Markdown editor. So if you're familiar with Markdown, this is 100% Markdown enabled. So you can use that to be as efficient as you want. And if you don't know about Markdown or care about that, there's also just a nice little bar for editing. And what is great about this is you can embed virtually any type of content under the sun. So anything social, YouTube, Twitter, you can just throw links in there and it'll show it very easily. And now, some pages are not published, so that's those checkboxes in the middle there. So the published and funded, basically, we'll see that in a second, but If you want to actually receive money to your Z address, you do have to fund a page, which requires a 1,000th of a ZEC payment. So almost nothing, but it's just kind of like an anti-spam mechanism. And this is what a published page actually looks like. And as you'll see, that purple flower on the left there, that is basically for boosting up the page in the list. So if you want to make sure that more people get eyeballs on your content, you can make a little payment. It's still pretty reasonable to get boosted, but that provides like a little native advertising mechanism using Zcash. All right, so this is how to fund a page. So I've got a little video here. I'm going to play this. All right, now it's time to fund our Z page. So I'm going to go to my Z pages list here. And this page has not been funded yet. So we can go ahead and either use the QR code with our phone wallet, or I'm going to go ahead and grab the address directly by clicking here. And now I need to go to my wallet. In my case, I'm using Zec Wallet, but you can use something else if you like. I'm going to take that address, and we'll copy it. And this has the funding amount and the memo set automatically. So all I need to do is hit send. All right, it's going to ask me to confirm. Great, the transaction has been broadcast. So now I just need to wait and the page will be funded. So yeah, my personal favorite feature is our comments section right here. So anyone who's done any web development or dealt with comments in forums knows that just keeping these spam-free is like a huge challenge. But yet again, we're using the power of Zcash. So when you post a comment, basically, you need to make a payment to that QR code. And as a result, just by having that very minimum payment, we've kept our forum like 100% spam-free. So it's like, I think it's a really cool use of Zcash. And above all, we've got dark mode. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. All right, Skylar, you're up with the why.
Hi, everybody. I'm Skylar. And yeah, I don't like computers. I don't like software. Obviously, I really don't like cryptocurrency, and I don't like hassles, and I'm lazy. So why would I choose to embark on this crazy thing? Just green goes forward. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm partly joking. I do like developing software, but I like playing music by the river with my family, and I don't take lightly starting new software. I kind of consider myself a software productivity expert, self-proclaimed. So, the #1 rule of software productivity is don't start writing more software because it's expensive to write, it's expensive to maintain. So, why would I do such a thing? So, how many people have used Zec Wallet Lite or another Lite wallet on their phone ever? So like most everybody. Yeah, so do you remember the feeling the first time you received a transaction on your phone and then you were able to send it and it, you proved it and it only took 5 seconds or whatever, and then you went on the blockchain explorer and you saw, no one could see anything. And to me, that was just a really magical experience, and I've kind of been following Zcash at a distance since like kind of well before the start, I guess you might say. And so to me, that was just such an achievement and a culmination of decades of theoretical work, and yeah, I kind of wanted to, I want people to experience that magic. And maybe, I would estimate maybe 10,000, low tens of thousands of people have ever kind of experienced that. So, I'm kind of thinking, it's underappreciated. So how can we kind of get more people involved? And while at the same time, over and over again, I listen to podcasts all day and all night sometimes, unfortunately. But yeah, people are asking for support, and I want to give them support. And I have this magic in my pocket, And yeah, I want to send them these funds, but they don't know about the magic. And to me, it just, worked in banking for 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it was. And so I kind of just hear like send money to Visa and like log into the centralized service and get your credit card out and get a new password or like OAuth with Twitter. And it's just, I want to bring that magic to more people and so they'll understand and, that more and more people can kind of use Zcash for this purpose. So, and yeah, meanwhile, I'm just kind of kicking back and, I just noticed this the other day. I don't know if this is the recent valuation. It's just kind of the first result on Google, like what is GoFundMe worth? And I think it's kind of interesting that it's basically, comparable, same order of magnitude as all of Zcash in a way. I mean, it's really apples and oranges, but to me, I'm looking at it and, Zcash is this cutting edge cryptography with all this like, thousands of hours of really, the amount of brain power is like staggering. And GoFundMe, I don't want to like belittle what they do. And, I mean, GoFundMe is a great tool. I also Googled, they have 50 million donors. So they've achieved this network effect. It works for a lot of people. So, but to me, technically, it's like really kind of straightforward. Like I can see the whole thing, it's an API, it's a web app. It's kind of like stuff we were all doing in 2010 or whatever. So, kind of all these things are kind of like, I'm just mulling them over for, probably years in some cases. But, so I'm just kind of wondering, like, can we create an engine, like some sort of viral success that could, create a positive feedback loop so more and more people can experience that magic of a shielded transaction, private internet cash, I like to say. Yeah, so I'm just kind of mulling these things over, and a lot of the ideas I would have were kind of like, there could be, you could do something custodial, but then you have security difficulties and regulatory difficulties. So like a lot of my, kind of ideas I might come up with, they're not worth doing because they're too much trouble, too much hassle, too much software. But then, we've been talking, a lot about programmability in Zcash, and there's this interesting feature, the encrypted memo, and I was kind of thinking, that's a little payload, and that can describe a payment intent. So basically, it can drive automation. So I was kind of thinking, well, I mean, you could unlock a rental car, or pay for your, rent a house, and like you could actually kick off kind of arbitrary automation based on these little payloads. And so what's the simplest possible automation you could do? You could flip a Boolean flag in a database, or essentially kind of like buy a row in my database. So I'm pretty good at running databases. I'm kind of expecting, a DDoS attack in the middle of the speech. So if Free2z's down, we'll tend to that later. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but no, but I'm pretty good at like running databases, scaling like traditional web apps. So yeah, so I was like, you could buy a row in my database. And yeah, so basically, kind of everything on the right-hand side is kind of this traditional GoFundMe, or so it's, just a traditional web app. It's a nice front end. It's a REST API, so the user could talk to the API. They could talk to the user interface, and it's kind of database-driven web application, pretty simple stuff. But then these other three blocks are kind of the user can talk to the wallet, and or have the intent, and then they broadcast it on the network, and then we can read on our Zcash full node as it stands right now, and basically just kind of cache those transactions to our database, so it becomes a very simple problem that what happened. We don't have to query Zcash in live action or something like that. We can just, put it in Redis right, 100 miles away from you and just like serve it, no problem, millions of hits, whatever. So yeah, I mean, just show you a few code snippets that I kind of had to figure out for myself. Actually, Nathan Wilcox kind of clued me in on the slick RPC because I'm just trying to kind of get the data out of Zcash D into like a general purpose programming language, which Python I kind of really like. Slick RPC, so that's like a really cool library you might want to look into. It's really simple and it's kind of string based though. So the good part of that is you don't have to update it when new RPC calls come out. It's kind of ready to go. It just magically turns methods into strings into RPC calls, which is cool, but I kind of, over the years I've grown to love types, so I kind of want to know what I need to pass in and what are the methods available and what can I get back. So yeah, I kind of created a little wrapper around slick RPC. Really like that. And then, yeah, this is probably too much code for a slide here, but yeah, basically it's just reading the transactions, parsing the memos, figuring out if it's the kind of intent like that this particular thing's looking for, and then just essentially just caching it in the database, and then doing some, our magic algorithm, to cache, what is the creator. It's kind of like a little clout thing. So we don't have to continuously consult the blockchain at that point. We kind of have it locally, or we kind of have it in our own space, so we can cache it and just query it. So when someone comes to call the API, it's just it's kind of like the hard part's over at that point, and it's one way of thinking about it. And then on the other side, so that's the back end. On the front end, we want to, this is basically zip 321, which is, I guess, my favorite zip so far. I only know of a handful, but it basically allows you to have the memo, and so here I can create some JSON and pass it into this function. And there's a little bit special, base 64. It's not, the normal base 64. It has a couple of, kind of interesting things about it. But I think someone who knows better, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a TypeScript implementation of a zip 321 payment URI. But there might be a detail I'm missing. I'm not sure. But so that allows us to, make this presentation to the user in the user interface and give it to the wallet. So it's basically kind of 3 ways that a wallet could interact with the payment URI. So it's either going to read the QR code, or you can copy paste it, and it's going to, most wallets, if you just paste it into the address, it'll fill the amount in the memo. Important little detail is don't mess with the memo. Don't have the JSON and then also put like, thanks a lot, this is awesome. We'll figure out how to pass messages and this kind of stuff too. But anyway, yeah. So we can make these nice interfaces that wallets can pretty easily deal with. Yeah, so challenges. It's like this first point, it's not very easy to figure out how to work with Zcash and Python, or work with Zcash and Node.js, React, whatever these kind of like high level. I call myself a high level noob developer, even though I'm like, been around forever and I'm kind of getting old. But as opposed to protocol core level, but basically, I kind of want to contribute in this space a little bit where. I think I really like hand-holdy guides and like spoon feeding. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a Django noob from way back, so I really love it's like, you've never written a web app, don't worry about it. Come, we got the docs for you. Like you're gonna have a magic experience. like your first adventure in software developing. So I want to make Zcash almost that easy, almost to the npm install Zcash or something like that. So you kind of just have these off-the-shelf libraries and so forth. And how do you run Zcash D? How do you put a light wallet D on it? Or Zebra? How would you switch that out? Or and so yeah, other challenges. So yeah, I mean, I kind of got a little sprawling. So I have like a lot of addresses, accounts. I'm using every light wallet. I'm like sending whatever all over the place, and yeah, and there's some like key decisions that could go pretty wrong when you're trying to scale. So like my first thought was I was going to have a Zcash address with like a different seed phrase for every page, and I was just going to load that into Zcash D. And I kind of got to thinking about it, and I was like, 1 million seed phrases, and then like, what is rescanning? Like maybe. And so I got some help on the forum, and Zip321 to the rescue. So, and then kind of the payment intents thing, instead of differentiating based on like addresses, although diversified addresses might be an interesting approach to that problem, but you kind of have to make certain decisions if you're thinking about scale. Yeah, so something to think about. And similarly, we had like viewing key features. So if you wanted to have kind of like a transparent fundraise, so it's kind of fun that no one knows how much you got and no one can see it. I can't see it. It's peer-to-peer, it's shielded. But what if you want to say, I'm trying to raise 10 ZEC, and it's kind of a little fun that if you send the money in, send the ZEC in, and you see the little worm grow, and you can see your like comment, like, I hope you really get that computer, here's like $10 worth of ZEC. So that would be kind of fun, but yeah, trying to think about how to scale that if we had tens of thousands of viewing keys and we need to scan, it's just, at this point we decided to kind of stick with the core offering for now, although it was working and it was really cool. But yeah, just you kind of have to consider some of these things if you're going for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of objects. And then the sandblasting, shout out to Za for giving me that word that really stuck. Is like, maybe it's a dust attack or whatever it is. The network has a lot of load, there's a lot of outputs, and is like a heavy user of light wallets. It's been kind of a setback in some ways, but I like the word sandblasting too, because maybe we blow off all the rust and crud and we have a really shiny brushed steel at the end of it. So that's been kind of a challenge though. And yeah, the whole thing is basically predicated on this user experience where people have a light wallet in their pocket and it syncs really well, and they're loving that. And so I mean, we're almost trying to like onboard people into light wallets, and so the sandblasting is kind of led me into more details about what's going on under the covers there, and maybe I'll probably kind of start contributing, figuring out how to make those things better. And then product market fit is always an adventure and a learning experience. So we're very iterative. So come tell us what you want to see, what you don't like, and then we're just kind of growing it based on user feedback. Right now it's actually not open sourced, so there's like a lot of snippets floating around. It's not rocket science anyway, so I mean, I would gladly help anyone, and we probably will open source the whole site, or at least significant pieces of it. But yeah, so in light of the wallet situation, I've kind of gotten really more involved in thinking about the entire light wallet stack, from Zebra, Zcash. And so this is, I'm calling this like a synthetic trunk. I won't say the word, it's so hard not to, but yeah. Basically, I want to work on, I want to try a new version of Zcash D and maybe like maybe a branch of Light Wallet D, and then maybe I want to A/B test, Blaze Sync versus Warp Sync, and like, see how that builds. And do I want Neon, or do I want Node Bind Gen, or can I try Wasm, or there's just like a lot of permutations that. But ultimately, I want to be able to maybe pass it to Jonathan and just say, try this branch, and it could have different versions of all these different things. And so there's a lot of experiments. The missing guides, so I have to write notes anyway, so I don't forget things. And how did I spin up that whole thing, or better yet, how is it automated, or how does the infrastructure get spun up, and all these kinds of things. So maybe I'm kind of starting a little repo of guides. So EX's experiments, docs, we got Han, Aditya, Zcash Foundation, Zcash. So it's like I don't have to remember and go around and, I can have build scripts that kind of reference multiple things, and I don't have to tell Jonathan 100 steps to like reproduce my state. You just, try it out, check out the branch, the script's there, it'll build A and B, try to load those into C, and then how does that run for you? And, so then he can start working on something too. So where are we going though? So that's where it is. Enter the zoo, by the way. The Zcash UI universe. Enter the zoo. Come enter the zoo. Come try out some experiments, write some docs. Make some issues for Free2z. So I'm kind of, 0 is the best number. Don't build software. Software is bad. But my next favorite number is 1. So I have this one place where I can find everything. These aren't my favorite logos in the world probably, or whatever, but I think we're going to try to meet people where they are in a lot of ways. So kind of like, deal with it. Like, this is kind of where people are. And maybe, really one of the points is I want people to get value out of this thing without knowing about Zcash or without having to know the details. So like, these kind of few click magical experiences. So maybe someone really wants to give to a certain cause, and they're not going to KYC with Gemini and whatever it would take to like go around the world, when really they just want to kind of like, Visa, and maybe, well, there's kind of details as how is this going to work without us being an intermediary and, not having this more security surface area that's kind of a disaster, regulatory surface area. So, it's kind of TBD, but we do kind of plan to let people kind of, maybe buy Zcash, and then it goes to where they want to send it to, or they have a little budget that they're going to, I want to spend $30 like helping people out, and I'll pick and choose after I get my Zcash. Anyway, a lot of details to work out there, but then also other kinds of integrations. So meet people where they are. Again, do I like all these logos? It's kind of a little controversial. Which one's like I really don't like that logo, but okay, well, you can put it on the slide, or we'll do it. You're a coder, you want to add a tip jar, that could be a 2-click experience with like GitHub OAuth, and still it's like 30% of the world runs on WordPress or whatever, so there could be a plugin there. We need SEO is like a bad word from way back, but we do, if you Google something, you want this like relevant thing to kind of come up high. If someone pastes a link to share on Facebook, it should have a nice card that has kind of the right things on it, so forth and so on. But kind of more fun and more important is wallet integration. So we want to make it easier, more seamless. Kind of allow wallets to use Free2z as an address book to a certain extent. Bring Free2z to the wallet, or bring the wallet to Free2z. So instead of this kind of, you're on the site, you go over here, you send the funds, you go back to the site, you see that it worked or whatever. You know, make that more seamless, like one-click kind of experience. And yeah, some other things like we don't support Orchard unified addresses, so that's going to be a big thing in the next coming months, I guess. This is actually a screenshot of a wallet I'm playing with, or that I started. That's kind of a desktop wallet that, you know, a lot of details there, but you know that maybe you can make the sync swappable. So it's kind of like the UI is here and the sync is here, and you know, kind of architected a little differently than some of the wallets that are out there. But yeah, it's kind of close actually. So hopefully, send maybe in a few days and restore maybe in a couple weeks, and yeah, you can receive it syncs, and then hopefully unified addresses. Although I talked to Strad for like an hour yesterday, and you know, so now my mind's totally blown, and you know, there's this like ideas about infinite scalability and like what might be coming, you know, months and years in the future. So it's kind of interesting. Maybe this isn't as relevant as in my world it has been recently, but yeah, kind of a cool looking wallet, should be pretty good. Questions before I start taking questions. Winnie had one on the Discord that I was gonna. She asked basically, are you going to do another grant for marketing? And it's kind of an interesting question, but I think yeah, maybe the answer is maybe. But yeah, the wallet integration is something that's we're really excited about and want to work with. So. Yeah, kind of the wallet situation needs to be solved and really good, because we don't want people to, you know, kind of come to Free2z and like we buy some clicks and they're kind of like want to do it. We want them to have an A+ experience through all that. So, and you know, I don't really just want to dump Zec for cash and then give the cash to Google or Facebook to like get eyeballs and clicks. Like, I don't think that's how we should envision marketing. You know, I really want like organic, you know, peer-to-peer, word-of-mouth. Look at this thing I'm using. I've had such great success, you know, and then it actually builds this shielded pool adoption and that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's basically it, I think. Yeah.
So I have a couple questions here.
Okay.
Well, first off, there's a lot of love for this project, so credit to you guys for working on this and you know, bringing it to reality. I think it's awesome. Have you thought about marketing Free2z as a Patreon or OnlyFans alternative? Lots of need to not be censored by payment processors there.
Yeah, that's a good one. In short, no, we have not thought of that. I think the point with a site that has a community as open as this one is that, I mean, it's going to naturally evolve in a lot of different directions. So we're kind of like listening to the community to see where we think it's going to go. And I don't think we're particularly, you know, that directive about like, oh, okay, this is what is okay and not okay to do on.
I kind of know how they work, but Patreon's mostly like a recurring thing. It's like one of the, yeah. That's kind of an interesting thing with cryptocurrency, is how would we do recurring, because it's kind of like everything's instant and final. And then, I mean, you know, we could have custody of the funds and then like dole it out monthly, but at that point it's kind of, why don't you just send it all at once? Or, you know, we could take your email to like nag you that you told someone you were going to give them a monthly, but
yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's some interesting possibilities there, or, you know, maybe it turns into Free2z funny money, you know.
Yeah.
It's something we'll have to think about, but I like the direct, you know, if you have some money you want to send somebody, just do it, and then it's directly to them, and we're not intermediating, so.
Yeah.
Something we might think about.
It could be reminders maybe, or
maybe
something.
someone else has ideas about recurring payments, or maybe that's in your wallet, like.
Yeah.
Remind me to hit OK next month to give this person another 1/10 of a Zcash or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe that's on the wallet side.
Okay. Can you add 2FA for login for security in the future?
It's interesting. There was a post on Twitter where actually Zuko was complaining about them nagging to get his phone number for 2FA, and then there was the Twitter data breach. So, I mean, the question though is what exactly are you protecting? You're protecting someone not being able to log on and like maliciously change your peer-to-peer address. So donations that should go to you are going to them instead. So I mean, it's not without an attack surface, but there's no custody again, and so I'd hesitate to add 2FA. I mean, if someone made a compelling argument, we're definitely capable of doing it, but I kind of like that it's not there.
Okay. How can you make Free2z's UI, UX as intuitive as GoFundMe, Patreon, etc.? Patreon seems to be, there's a theme with that.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of have something to say on this. I don't know. Like Patreon. So I went to sign up on Patreon just to experience it. Like, what is Patreon? I'm going to go experience it. And I couldn't get through the sign-up process personally. I got bored, tired, scared. No, not scared, but it was just so laborious, and there's just so much to it. I don't know, like, what could be more friendly than just go, no verification, title, content.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I mean
there's always stuff that can be improved. That, like, this is still like a super early stage sort of project. Like, there are going to be so many changes even over the next couple of months. So yeah, I mean, totally. There's going to be a lot of evolution on the UI side. I think you're going to see, and we believe in continuous improvement. So yeah, it's going to get way better over time. And actually, the community involvement is what really makes that happen. If you just come to us with your questions, feedback, suggestions, that's like incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I could see like a little bit more of a wizard, because it's kind of like, okay, I'm creating a username, password, but why? So maybe it's, like examples and like what you can do, and well, what does the username mean? So maybe little like micro videos as you go through, like, what's this peer-to-peer address? Like, hi, I'm Jonathan. Let me tell you about the peer-to-peer address, or something like that.
But yeah, there's totally loads of room for improvement. So we appreciate like any suggestion, any issues you want to open up on our GitHub. Please do that.
Sweet. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
And thanks everybody for coming to Zcon3. That's a wrap. That's it.